Hello everyone, welcome back to HS English. Today we'll be looking at the theme today of Power Our Authority. As you've seen, we've moved off from all the characters, and by the way though, each character's video is part of this playlist that you should see on your right. But let's get straight into the theme of power. So firstly, the first paragraph will all be about Lenny's physical power. You know, his description is that he's a huge man, he's strong as a bull, and this physical power is envied by Curly, because Lenny's a big guy, and Curly, the son of the boss, he has short man syndrome. Um, but it's ironic because Lenny is the most physically powerful character on the ranch, but he's the weakest in terms of authority. This is a beautiful kind of like juxtaposition here by Steinbeck because he's controlled almost by George with his like aggressive language because George reflects, if you want about a historical context, that typical itinerant farm rent worker who's lonely, who's cold, and that aggressive language when it comes to, controlling Lenny by George just exemplifies the difficult conditions of the time. The aggressive language reflects the aggressive conditions. It's almost like a kind of metaphor. And yeah, this kind of harsh dialect really exemplifies the difficult conditions. But crucially, when it comes back to Lenny, is that he actually manages to remove Curly's power. He's the son of the ranch, son of the boss, sorry. But Curly, after his arm was broken by Lenny, is actually forced to admit that his arm was broken and caught in a machine. It wasn't broken by Lenny, and immediately Curly's power is completely vanquished in the presence of Lenny. And again, it just shows the immense physical power when it comes to Lenny. Because remember, authority or power on the ranch can be a descriptive thing as well. That's why I've looked at Lenny's physical power in this first paragraph. In the second paragraph, we have the power of Slim. He is the prince of the ranch as he's been described. He has godlike eyes, and his Slim's words were law. His authority was so great that his word was taken on any subject, be it politics or love. And Slim's authority actually is earned by winning the respect of his fellow labourers. He gives them advice, he shares feelings and emotions, something very, very odd because as we've talked about paragraph 1, the nature of the itinerant farm worker is a cold, isolated, aggressive worker who's trying to survive in a very, very difficult time. But Slim, meanwhile, shows time for others, He's able, to reflect in emotions, and that's why George, for example, he's able to admit to Slim why him and Lenny left weed, for example. And this quote here, for example, by Slim: "I seen the guys that go around the ranches alone. That ain't no good. They don't have no fun. After a long time, they get mean." Clearly, that is the stereotype, and Slim challenges this stereotype because he portrays the practicality of ranch workers during the Great Depression because he's a jerkland Skinner. He's also less likely to lose his job. Therefore, he has time, to help people, to reflect with their emotions and provide aid to them. Such that it is Slim's word that forces Curly to say, "Okay, my hand was broken in a machine," and it's Slim's word that eventually convinces Candy that his dog should be shot. Because Slim says that dog ain't no good anymore. And finally, with paragraph 3, we look at the character of Crooks, because he's seen at the bottom of the social hierarchy. He's even below women when it comes to the ranch hierarchy. And the ranch hierarchy almost explains or exemplifies the hierarchy that was the social almost hierarchy that's present during the Great Depression, because Crooks had to deal with racial prejudice. This can be seen by even how Curly's wife talking about getting Crooks strung on a tree. And this just the kind of fear of being lynched, the fear of racist organisations such as the KKK, which are very present in 1930s America, means that Crooks is actually forced into just his room. He doesn't have any friends. He's not allowed into the bunkhouse, and his complete lack of social authority really is shown here. But crucially, you can also add, if you want, a little bit on Curly's wife. Actually, the fact that Curly's wife, sorry, represents women defined by their husbands, because Curly's wife, for example, doesn't have a name. She's a possession of Curly, and this is something that reflects the modern social hierarchy, saying that women were merely a social possession of their husbands. It's only after this that you have the building of women's rights, and it takes almost the 1960s and the civil rights movement actually before coloured people could also get their same rights, and therefore This can be seen as paragraph 3 will talk about those at the bottom of the hierarchy, whether that's Curly's wife or whether that's Crooks, who exemplifies colored people and women during the time of the Great Depression. So yeah, thank you. This was the first theme. Please feel free to like and subscribe, and we'll have quite a lot more themes planned. Hopefully we'll get something done on isolation, friendship, dreams, violence, animals, even locations, and even memories. So yeah, thank you very much.